Thanks for watching CBS 8 Plus and welcome to this Throwback Special. I'm Marcella Lee. With more than 70 years of broadcasting, we've been able to share so many memorable moments in our San Diego community and beyond. Our crews spent considerable time in the Los Angeles area in 1978, giving our viewers a look at life up the coast. The stories we're sharing in this Throwback Special were part of a couple different series. One was called Journal and the other On the Move. Dave Cohen shows us what went down before the sun came up in downtown Los Angeles. His first stops, the Central Market and the Flower Market, both bustling from 2 a.m. through 8 a.m. Then it was on to El Pueblo de Los Angeles and other historical sites.
It's 5 a.m. in Los Angeles. Most of the visitors to this city are still asleep, dreaming about what they saw yesterday, what they'll see today. If you're among the more adventurous and perhaps an insomniac to boot, two of the more interesting sights in this city must be viewed before the sun comes up. And one of those is the Central Market downtown. From 2 until 8 in the morning, this 2-square block area is a beehive of trucks and produce. More than 40 wholesalers do business here, receiving produce from independent farmers, then selling to independent grocers.
They buy in the market what they can't locate directly from the farmers. And like for instance, I'll buy 200 or 300 boxes of avocados, and the farmer's out, so the chain can't go to the farmer to buy them, so he's got to come here.
A tourist will find the scene fascinating, but don't expect to buy anything. It's wholesale only. Less than 5 minutes from the produce market is the flower market, the only one in Southern California. The peak hours are the same, and so's the principle. Wholesalers buy from independent growers and sell to retailers. The splash of color is dazzling at this or any hour. Now, if the average tourist to Los Angeles were to come down here some morning, would he be able to buy from most of the shops here?
We don't encourage it, but they could buy here if they wanted to, as long as they pay the posted price. Sales tax, of course, is charged on top of that, but as I say, we don't encourage it because it disturbs the even flow of working the merchandise out to the retail florists.
If you're not famished by this time, you're inhuman. May we suggest the Pantry, a corner eatery celebrating its 55th year of 24-hour business. The food's good, the price is reasonable, and because of that, be prepared to stand in line a few minutes waiting for a table. One hunger satisfied, we headed out to feast on some of LA's history. This is the original downtown when Los Angeles was little more than a settlement, El Pueblo de Los Angeles, now a state historical park. Much of the area is undergoing restoration, hopefully in time for the city's 200th birthday in 1981. The Avila adobe, dating back to 1818, was the home of Francisco Avila, the first mayor of the Pueblo. It's the oldest existing residence in the city. Across the street, the Plaza Church, still conducting daily services 156 years after its dedication. There's the Pico House, built in 1870, the first major 3-story hotel in Los Angeles. It was the height of luxury at the time, but as the city's downtown began to spread, this area fell into general decay, and within 20 years, the building had become a house of ill repute. And next door, the Merced Theater, the first in L.A. An undertaker did business on the ground floor, but apparently that was not a social comment on the art of acting a century ago. There is more to see in the Pueblo, plus shopping along Olvera Street, and we never realized we missed lunch, which none of us needed anyway. Downtown also is people, thousands of them, with what seem like an equal number of cars. Give yourself plenty of time to get where you're going. Invariably, what you think is enough time often is not, by at least 15 minutes. But it's a study of human and metropolitan nature, man and buildings, uniquely Los Angeles. And there's the Bradbury Building, perhaps the most fascinating piece of architecture in the city. Built in 1893, the structure is restrained outside, but inside an interesting marriage of marble and steel with a dazzling skylight, hydraulic elevators, and dozens of offices, many occupied by attorneys, probably because they're the only ones who can afford it. Just one of the many sites off the beaten tourist path that winds through this maze known as Los Angeles. There is a new look here, like the modern glittering Bonaventure Hotel. LA has a center city that mixes the past and the present, and that blend appears to be keeping it alive when other downtowns are dying. We've touched on only a few of the sites here, but enough to show that downtown, although not quite as popular as Disneyland or Hollywood, still has a lot to offer the visitor to the LA area. Dave Cohen, News 8, downtown Los Angeles.
These days, you need to leave yourself a lot more than 15 minutes to get to where you're going, sometimes a couple hours. The original farmers market was also a bustling attraction back then. When Doug McAllister visited, he described it as a carnival beneath a canvas covering the middle of the City of Angels. The market had 160 different shops, restaurants, and salons, with 20,000 people visiting every day except Sundays. As Doug explains, the market dates back to 1934.
It's been said about Farmers Market that if you spend enough time here, sooner or later you'll run into everyone you've ever known. That's what's been said, but chances are, with 20,000 visitors daily, except Sundays, you'll bump into someone familiar. Farmers Market is an institution, internationally known, a collection of 160 different shops, salons, stands, stores, and eating places. It's something you might expect to find in Europe or the Mideast or the Orient instead of garish L.A. But here it is anyway, a carnival beneath a canvas covering in the middle of the City of the Angels, a bustling but friendly place that assaults the senses that see, smell, and listen with a mixture of aroma and activity like you've never before experienced. And there's something for everyone, not just for vacationers from Des Moines. Indeed, many who come here are locals who shop regularly for vegetables, produce, meats, baked goods. Some come for lunch or dinner or to shop for a gift. Because Farmers Market is an experience they want to share, so different from a shopping mall in the suburbs. The market is unique and always has been. It's a 44-year-old experiment that worked and keeps on working, a wild idea from the start.
Back before there ever was a farmer's market, this location was part of a dairy farm owned by A.F. Gilmore. One day while looking for water, Farmer Gilmore struck oil and changed his business interests. This portion of the ranch lay dormant until 1934, when a group of farmers hit hard by the Depression decided to band together their roadside vegetable stands, and the farmer's market was born.
The idea for a farmer's market came from Roger Dolium, a $4 a week bookkeeper for a bakery who persuaded the Gilmore family to use some of their land for a farmers' cooperative. There were just 18 stalls at first, with fruit, vegetables, and eggs. The rest is history. Allegra Meshulam is part of that history. She and her husband, a chicken rancher from Burbank, had one of the original stalls and sold eggs. Allegra, friends call her Nana, now sells fruit and vegetables from a stand on the site where she started in 1934.
Prices were incredible. We were selling lettuce 3 for a dime, and apples 3 pounds for a quarter, and grapes 5 pounds for a quarter, and so on.
You've been here since 1934. What impresses you most about Farmers Market 1978?
The quality that we carried, the quality of merchandise that we carried here, and the service that we give the people come here. We're serving the 3rd generation now because of the quality and the courtesy we give to the people.
More than anything else, Farmers Market is people, all kinds of people. The shopkeepers, the patrons, the Gilmores, whose investment in people 44 years ago has meant so much. Just ask Nana Meshulam. She'll tell you.
It's a pleasure to work here. The atmosphere, to be outdoors, to the merchandise that we handle, the people that we have come in. They're all friendly. Everybody that works here have fun. Because we have the best customers in town.
That's the kind of attitude that has kept the people coming here and has made Farmers Market the 2nd largest tourist attraction in California. Doug McAllister, News 8, On the Move, Los Angeles.
All these years later, the original farmers market is still a popular destination. You can check it out on 3rd and Fairfax in LA. Next up, the Brea Tar Pits. The George Page Museum housed the fossils found in the tar pits. It had only been open for 8 months when Doug visited, and admission was free.
The Brea Tar Pits were first noted in 1769 by a Spanish explorer, but it was not until 1906 that the puddles of pitch were extensively explored. Since then, more than 500,000 Ice Age specimens have been recovered, 200 different kinds of mammals, birds, reptiles, insects, and plants. The Ice Age lasted about 3 million years and ended about 10,000 years ago. The tar pits have been collecting their specimens for about 40,000 years, and the George Page Museum, opened 9 months ago, houses them. Skeletons with enough bones to assemble are on display inside the museum. These are the bones of an American mastodon and a 6-year-old mastodon youngster. There is the skeleton of an imperial mammoth, once North America's answer to the elephant. This one, 12 feet tall. And there is the once fearsome North American lion, or California saber-tooth, formerly a ferocious carnivore. The only human skeleton ever found in the tar pits is that of a 9,000-year-old woman, displayed in a case along with a depiction of what she might have looked like. And for the first time in 50 years, the pits are being explored again. Earlier explorations were not so delicate, and many valuable artifacts were either ruined or discarded, according to Page Museum curator Bill Ackerston.
We're looking for the little things primarily: snails, plant seeds, insects, mice, lizards, snakes, all the small stuff. In the old days, they didn't realize that these things were important. They're considered to be mostly species which live today, and that's true. But they are also our best clues to the environment that existed back then, because they do live today, and we can determine what their ecological requirements are.
The La Brea Pits are called the world's richest source of fossils. Page Museum receives everything found in the pits, and what's been found is worth coming to see. And it's free. Doug McAllister, News 8, On the Move, Los Angeles.
It's not free anymore. An adult ticket now will cost you $15, which isn't bad, especially for LA. If fossils don't get your adrenaline pumping, maybe roller coasters will do the trick. In 1978, Six Flags Magic Mountain was relatively new, but in its 8 years of operation, it had climbed its way up into the top 5 ranking of amusement parks in the world. The park was in the middle of adding a new Colossus coaster to be the largest, highest, and fastest roller coaster at the time. Doug braved the ride and said he'd have rather gone sailing.
The Magic Mountain Publicity Department calls the amusement park a place of participatory entertainment. You make it happen. This is what they mean by participatory entertainment. Maybe at Magic Mountain they're trying to be or appear to be different, but really they already are. Opened just 8 years ago, Magic Mountain has quickly become one of the top 5 parks in the world. Last year, it drew more than 3 million people. This year, they'll do even better. And the secret is their difference from other parks. Magic Mountain has some thrill rides like nobody else. This web of wood, 1,200,000 board feet of pine and fir, is the park's latest white knuckler. Since opening in June, Colossus, the largest, highest, fastest roller coaster ever built, has been averaging between 9,000 and 10,000 riders weekdays, more on weekends, and they're coming from far and wide for a ride.
Personally, I'd rather spend about a half hour slapping myself than get on a thrill ride. So what am I doing on the world's largest roller coaster? I can't answer that question right now. Perhaps I'll have more to say about it after I get back.
If I had paid closer attention to the information I had about Colossus long before this ride, I might never have gotten aboard. Height from the ground, 115 feet. Length of track, 1,600 feet. Speed, 60 miles per hour plus. Length of first drop, 115 feet. Coaster ever built has featured 2 drops in excess of 100 feet. What a pleasant surprise after the first plunge. In all, the passenger experiences a feeling of weightlessness 11 times during the course of the ride. The ride lasts 3 minutes and 30 seconds. There is never a dull moment. And when it ends, you halfway wish the ride wasn't over with. Fear can play tricks with the logical mind.
You say? My lips are dry, my legs are shaking, I think I left my lunch back on the first turn, but if you're after a thrill, the Colossus is the place to find it. Personally, I'd rather be sailing.
Colossus took 3 years to plan, a year to build, and cost $6 million. It will soon pay for itself. But it is not all there is to Magic Mountain. There are 4 other roller coasters and 71 other rides in the park for the timid and the tough. But the Revolution, featuring a 360-degree vertical loop, is a real challenge for those who like to keep their meals down. Is the largest steel roller coaster ever built. Besides the loop, and unlike Colossus, cars scream around curves in sympathy with passengers and in defiance of natural law. Some say it is much more fearsome than the wooden giant getting all the attention lately. The park also claims the world's largest water flume ride, the Log Jammer, and a few other diversions as well. For the less adventurous, there's Spillikin Corners, a place where the softer sounds of handcrafted items being made replace the screams and rumble of the thrill rides. And there's a train ride around and through the park's 200 acres with rare animals and pastoral settings. A nice way to recuperate from a thrill ride or two. All rides, attractions, shows, music, etc. are paid for at the admission gate. Food and drink, merchandise, and games of skill are extra. Magic Mountain may be a relative newcomer to the amusement park industry, but it has already made its mark. Beneath all the trimmings is the sheer, raw terror you can find on its incredible thrill rides. It is a place, as it soon will be billed, where your screams come true. Doug McAllister, News 8 on the Move, Valencia.
Doug said he'd rather be sailing. Well, now let's talk a little bit about the coast. The vacant land where Doug is standing right there, that is now Seaport Village. Construction was about to begin when he was out there with plans modeled after the Ports of Call village up in San Pedro. Doug and his photojournalist ventured north to give San Diegans an idea of what was coming to our city.
By the end of this year, these now barren 13 acres, once a ferry landing, will have a considerably different look. The look of an old California seaport village.
And that's what this $12 million project is called, the San Diego Seaport Village, a soon-to-be waterfront collection of Spanish-style restaurants and specialty shops. Seaport Village is a private development on land once owned by the Port District. Ground will be broken the middle of next month and most construction finished by year's end. What will it be like? Like Ports of Call in San Pedro, almost. While Seaport will have a Spanish theme, Ports of Call is fashioned after a 19th century whaling village and a Mediterranean fishing village. It was started nearly 15 years ago with the whaling village, expanded to include the fishing village, and soon will have a Scandinavian section. 75 shops and food places fill this narrow section on the west side of Los Angeles Harbor. The shops feature knickknacks and imports. The restaurants, everything from seafood to Belgian waffles. It is no secret that the merchants are after tourists, and that certainly will be the idea in San Diego. The idea works, according to prophets, and Ports of Call is so successful it's become a model for similar ventures in Florida, Texas, and Wisconsin, and no doubt influenced the developers in our town. Some people call places like this tacky. Others think they're really swell. Like it or not, California's economy is heavily dependent upon tourism, and tourism is heavily dependent upon places like these. Doug McAllister, News 8 on the Move, San Pedro.
Such an interesting look at the inspiration for Seaport Village. Now let's turn our attention to the Playboy Mansion. Our crews got access to a lot of places the public wasn't able to see, and on one occasion we were invited to the Playboy Mansion to cover a fundraiser for the Hollywood sign. Our crews asked if they could get some video of the grounds and the inside of the mansion, and much to their surprise, permission was granted. Here's Doug with a look at what the eccentric estate looked like 5 years after Hugh Hefner moved in.
This is the home of Hugh Hefner, Playboy Mansion West, and you can see why it's called the mansion. Not many people are allowed on these grounds, and we're not here by privilege. It was really more of a fluke.
We were covering a Save the Hollywood Sign fundraising party at the mansion and asked if we might photograph the 4.5 acres of grounds and structures. Approval came quickly. The 30-room Tudor mansion is a replica of England's Homely House. It was built in 1927 for Arthur Letts Jr. of Broadway department store renown and purchased in 1973 by Playboy Enterprises. Since then, it has been the permanent home of Playboy publisher Hugh Hefner. Hefner moved here to be near Playboy's West Coast Entertainment Division. His former headquarters, a $2.5 million Chicago mansion, is up for sale. In the main house, Hefner's only personal room is an upstairs bedroom, which is off-limits for most, as is the rest of the upstairs. The lower floor sees an occasional social function and is an elegant Tudor setting with a mix of furnishings. The living room is to one side of the grand entranceway. Tall windows on two sides offer daylight and a view of the grounds. On the same side of the entranceway is a study library. Backgammon boards and a tabletop, Hefner mementos and framed recollections from the life of a man who is still foremost in his field. The grounds, though not particularly sprawling, are nothing short of a wonderland of exotic plants and animals. Toucans, flamingos, and lush plants make it tropical. Japanese carp populate rock-lined ponds and watercourses. This, if you hadn't guessed, is the swimming pool, built in keeping with the rock and foliage mix of the rest, and with a grotto for sporty swimmers. The grounds are often used as settings for Playboy magazine photos. And there are two guest homes on the grounds, one with a game room, a posh place of arcade machines, a pool table, and a caricature of none other than the master of the mansion. The other guest dwelling has a country theme and was designed by Hefner's former mate, singer Barbie Benton. And that's the way things are at Playboy Mansion West. What wasn't shown is what the man who lives here considers personal, and that's not difficult to understand. Doug McAllister, News 8 on the Move, Holmby Hills.
It's been fun teleporting back to 1978, but our final story may feel more like 1938. We're taking you to the city of Avalon on Catalina Island. It was a popular destination in the 1930s for the wealthy Hollywood elite. Carol Kendrick shows us the acres and the area's glamorous history.
From the bustling port of progress, a journey into the past, is it 1978 or 1938? The stretch of ocean between Los Angeles and Avalon Bay spans years. Seagulls race the boat to Avalon, a tiny Mediterranean fishing village that has held back in time a step or two, and the coming of spring signals the return of the tourists as it has for 40 years or more. Avalon is a place where the whole year's fortunes sink or swim with the sunshine and the tourists, where the natives pass in daily ritual through the plaza, where cars are a cumbersome oddity, and where the family named Wrigley has left an indelible impression on the place and its people. The Wrigleys came to the island in 1919, built a mansion overlooking the harbor, and established what some old-timers say was a little corner of paradise on earth. Frank Burgess was born on the island 64 years ago, and he's blunt when asked if the place has changed.
In my opinion, yes, and not for the better either.
How so?
We're getting a different crowd of people than we used to get. When I say that, I'm referring to the days when William Wrigley was alive, to what I call the golden years. Of course, he was a special type of person. He put money into the place like it was going out of style.
A lot of people share the view that the place hasn't been the same since Avalon Bay sheltered the yachts of Hollywood's elite and served as a setting for nights of big band music. But even now, on sultry summer evenings, the sounds of Glenn Miller and Freddie Martin still float over the water from the casino. The casino is the epitome of all that was Avalon in its golden age. A decadent indulgence in pleasure, it drew the beautiful people of the 30s and put the tiny village on the map. 4,000 people a night danced in the casino. KBIG radio broadcast the big band sounds to the mainland, and Papa Wrigley picked up all the bills. The Depression was over, the World War was still a distant menace, and if you were young and rich, the world was your oyster. But it wasn't just the music that drew them, that draws them still, but the men-only snobbery of the posh tuna club, the long, lazy days in warm sand, and early mornings when the fishing's easy and the island has a calm about it that makes you feel life itself is pretty good. Avalon follows along into the twilight of this century with a nostalgia for things past. A lot of island dwellers say the golden age of Avalon ended with the 30s, and they've clung to what remnants of past pleasures they can. You still pick up the phone and ask the operator for the number you want, and the boat from the mainland is still the big event of the morning. Avalon is a retreat from today. Catalina is an island in time, where in 1978 or 1938, there is the sense that this is the very best of moments in the best of all possible worlds. Carol Kendrick, News 8, Catalina Island.
Beautiful sunset there. I've lived in San Diego for about 20 years, and visiting Catalina Island is still on my bucket list. Here's just another reason to go. Thanks so much for watching this Throwback Special. To see more throwbacks like this on CBS 8+, click on the News tab at the top of the screen. I'm Marcella Lee. We'll see you next time.